Safety in the country. What was it about Alabama?
LSU Tigers, number one. Go Tigers.
In the next 4 years, I'm going to Denver University.
Call into the Neighbors Wealth Management Hotline, 256-576-4977. Now, here's D Squared.
Welcome, everyone, to the final edition of the Recruiting Blitz on this Friday. And we'll be headed down to Nashville later today for the SEC basketball tournament, quarterfinal Friday. Looking forward to those 4 high-level games. And who better than to help us talk about it? He's going to join us now right off the show. He's been there all week, doing a great job for Southeastern14.com and BandySports.com. The Commodores, who he's covered for 20-plus years, they get a win last night, so they are still alive. And, you know, building a very interesting resume late to give the committee something to think about. And we're going to talk to Chris Lee about all that right now as he's with us on the Neighbors Wealth Management Hotline. Chris, it's always great to speak with you. How are you?
Hey, great. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. We had chalk for the most part until the Arkansas Razorbacks win last night over Auburn. But you're like myself, you've followed this league throughout the season. Not really a shocker, and actually Arkansas a slight favorite going into that game last night.
Yeah, I mean, that was a fun game last night. And by the way, I'm getting a little echo here. I don't think it'll affect me on my end, but just letting you know.
Gotcha.
And Blake Lovell and I were sitting there watching that game last night, looking at ourselves and going, how can this be a 10 and a 7 in the conference? I mean, it was amazing. And we were watching Arkansas in particular and just thinking, man, how talented is this team with Nick Smith back and Anthony Black playing at that level. That was a fun game to watch. I don't know what to make of Arkansas at this point. I keep thinking they're better than they are. It's maybe an Elite Eight type team, but at the same time, you know, they've got, 11 losses, whatever that number is this morning. I don't know what that team is at this point, but I know what I saw of it last night. It's really dangerous, and I'm very anxious to see how the Razorbacks match up with Texas A&M today.
What's interesting, too, is I was checking, once again, the Sharps and what they think of each matchup today, and they have Arkansas as a slight 1-point favorite over A&M.
Yeah, the thing I wonder is, right, because it's not like you're just playing these two teams straight up in some way. A&M had a day off. Arkansas had to really push itself last night to get to this point. And A&M is a team that'll be physical. It'll really get after you on the defensive end, all those things, right? And so I'm interested to see how that impacts Arkansas today. But I'll tell you another thing, guys. I'm seeing so many shots missed so badly. I've seen a couple of teams I thought were going to break backboards just by missing the rim so badly in this tournament. And I'm particularly thinking about Georgia. I do wonder if there's an advantage to playing a game as opposed to having rest. I think that the answer is not that. I think I'd rather have the rest. But as I'm watching these teams shoot, I do have to wonder, and I think this one is going to be a phenomenal matchup today.
Yeah, and we'll just start with Alabama and Mississippi State. Alabama had 2 tough games. They did sweep the Bulldogs. Now, they played them 2 years ago in 20 in Nashville after beating them twice and beat them soundly in the quarterfinals and played at a very high level. But Tulu Smith has given them some problems. He saved Mississippi State yesterday, maybe got them in the tournament. People seem to think that win got them in. But your thoughts on the matchup? And the last time we saw Alabama, they did not win the game in Reed Arena, and yet all year, and Nadeau's made note of this before they left for Nashville, Alabama's responded from losses.
Yeah. I don't know about State being in. I think they're pretty close, but the thing is, you've got some teams today that have got a chance to get some big wins that are on the bubble. I'm thinking of Oregon, obviously Vandy, and I think, is it Rutgers or whoever plays Purdue?
Yeah, Rutgers plays Purdue. They knocked Michigan out, yep.
So I never like to say it's too safe until all the dust settles on everything. but I think State has got to wake up feeling pretty good about itself this morning. The thing that I worry about State is just, can it hit enough shots? And frankly, I worry that about a lot of teams in this league. But State in particular just is going to be very dependent, I think, on how the game is called, on getting Toulouse Smith touches in the post, which, teams are going to be posting on, not letting him get the ball, all those kind of things. Now, I think State is so physical, it can give Alabama some issues. We've seen that once. But, again, I do wonder about that day two element of it. How fresh are they in the game with an Alabama team that can really match you athlete for athlete and then some and get after you on the defensive end too?
And then Tennessee and Missouri, we know what happened. 35-footer at the buzzer. Mizzou wins it. But Tennessee didn't have Josiah Jordan-James. They didn't have Julian Phillips. But now Tennessee doesn't have Zakai Ziegler. It'll be point guard by committee. I like the balls in the game, but going to be a very interesting matchup with Tennessee and Missouri. Tennessee, the defending tournament champ.
Yeah, again, I want to see how Missouri shoots it. Just seeing so many teams have issues with that, because if Missouri doesn't do that, it can get ugly with Tennessee because they can defend you so well. That's a fascinating one, too. I mean, look, I think today's games, I don't know that I ever remember a better Thursday slate just across the board. And I just think seeing the rematch of this one where the teams are just completely a contrast in styles, going to be very interesting to see who wins that one. Again, with Missouri, the more rested team.
Yeah, and then we bring up those Razorbacks, a slight favorite over A&M. A&M beat them the last time 62-56 in Reed Arena. Buzz Williams' team played exceptional in this event last year, getting all the way to the championship game, nearly winning it over Tennessee. But now A&M, this will be their first action. Very good guard play. They're coming off of a win against Alabama in the regular season. But your thoughts on this A&M and Arkansas game? And Arkansas now, they were already in the field, but certainly they have it got them back on track. And they're, as you said, you watched them last night. They're very, very talented, and it's just head scratching. They're a 10 seed.
Yeah, and I'm really interested for Arkansas how high that seed can go, or really even how low it can go, because it's been a weird team. It's 8-10 in the league. And a lot of people have been saying, well, I don't know how Arkansas should be in or that safely in or all those things. But as everybody knows, they're talented. They've got Nick Smith Jr. back. And I think that guards match up tonight with Smith and Black and Council on the wing against Radford and Taylor and all those guys. I think that's going to be super entertaining, just as it was last night with Auburn. I'm going to take A&M in this one, but would I be shocked if Arkansas got all the way to Sunday and he even won it? No, of course not. The talent's there, and I think that's just going to be, if you don't really care about the outcome and the meeting and everything, if you just want to pick a game to watch, I think that might be as fun as we see today.
Well, and certainly Vanderbilt, your Commodores, they got a nice win last night. They've won 9 out of 10. They need Ohio State to lose today because they're a bid stealer out of the Big Ten. There's not a lot of bid stealers, though, out there, but Vandy could be one, though. But they're kind of flying under the radar. I was asked this last night by someone. He thought, well, if Vandy, beats Kentucky and then they get to the semifinals and lose a close game, they could still be in, or did they have to reach the finals? I still think they got to win the tournament, but can they potentially steal a bid even by getting to Sunday? What does Vanderbilt have to do?
Well, their fans think they're in if they beat Kentucky tonight, and some of them think they should be in regardless. The latter is not happening. I'm not seeing them anywhere on Bracket Matrix this morning in terms of anybody having them in anywhere. But I think they are closer than most of the bracketologists. I've been doing the analysis this morning. I think you can make a case that they are 2 or 3 off the bubble right now, which is more than most people have them.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to depend on what you make of that net number itself, which I don't think the committee has ever been too concerned with. They've been more concerned with the quads and everything. But, yeah, I think this is one – I'm not going to say that they're in, but I would probably put that as better than 50% odds, but they're going to be one that's going to be very nervous scoreboard watching because they could actually beat Kentucky tonight and lose ground if some of these other teams get wins over Purdue and UCLA and teams like that. That's the danger, is you've always got to look after other people, and I think Vanderbilt's going to be the quintessential case of that today.
What's going to be interesting, because I agree with you, Oregon has got to get more wins, but I wonder if Arizona State got in last night beating USC or if they've still got more work to do.
Honestly, I think you could put their resume next to Vanderbilt's. I don't think you can make the case that Vandy's is better. I'm not saying it is, but I think everybody's got Arizona State over them or ahead of them. I'm not so sure about that. We're all trying to play mind readers of the committee, but I think Vanderbilt's resume is a little better than people think. I just think they're so late to the party. People haven't really gotten used to the idea of maybe them being there, but I think they need to start doing that, especially if they beat Kentucky tonight.
And your thoughts on them beating Kentucky? I mean, they lost decisively in Memorial Gym 69-53, but then after the loss to LSU and they avenged it last night, they go to Rupp and win 68-66. So how do you see the matchup? Because this is not a vintage Kentucky team.
No, two things. Again, Vanderbilt, a team that had to play into the final minute last night to make sure it got that one. And so you've got the fatigue factor and wherever that plays in. Number two, I'm not a big fan of the saying that it's harder to beat a team multiple times, which I guess that goes for Kentucky too, since they won the one in Memorial Gym. But I do think if you were Kentucky playing that game in Lexington a couple weeks ago, you're probably thinking, we're going to win this one. We're the better team. And then when Liam Robbins goes down, you're probably thinking we're really the better team. Well, you know how that panned out. I feel like John Calipari has got a better chance of getting his team's attention in this one, given what happened in the last meeting. But, my goodness, don't undersell Vanderbilt right now, because I thought the minute that Robbins went out, it's just going to be impossible for them to win what they needed to win to get to the bubble of the tournament. Well, here they are, basically 3-0 if you consider he didn't play the Kentucky game since he only played 4 minutes. And they're getting a lot out of a lot of guys. And so I wouldn't rule them out winning tonight. I think it's another in a series of what seems like semi-impossible events, but they keep doing it.
Well, it has, and it's been amazing. But if Vanderbilt ultimately falls before Sunday, is the loss of Liam Robbins going to hurt them in the eyes of the committee, you think?
I would think that it would, but at the same time, they're 3-0 without him.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, they've been really good. I mean, and I guess that's why Jerry Stackhouse was named co-coach of the year in the SEC because, I'll be the first to admit it. When Alabama beat them 101-44, I didn't see Vanderbilt making this kind of run. It's been really a remarkable turnaround, especially with Robbins. He got hurt in the Bama game, but then going out basically for the season after that because when he's been on the floor, he's been as good as any big man in the league, Chris.
Yeah, I could argue that Liam Robbins, when he is on the floor, is one of the two best players in the league. I think I'd still take Brandon Miller to anybody, but statistically, in some ways, he's been better. Incredible to see what they've been able to do without him because I just thought he meant so much to their identity. And look, give credit to Jerry Stackhouse for figuring this out without him. Yes,
no doubt. And final few minutes with Chris Lee. We appreciate his time. He is live in Nashville, Tennessee. We'll be on press row with his good friend Blake Lovels. They do a great job with Southeastern 14, and Chris, also the publisher of BandySports.com, part of the Rivals Network. You've been down there since Wednesday. The crowds have been great. You trust your eyes. what in your mind, what are we going to see today with these four great quarterfinal matchups in the SEC, starting with Alabama and Mississippi State?
Well, it's hard to pick against Alabama. It's fascinating. I have a feeling Tennessee gets them in this one.
Yeah.
I like Kentucky to beat Vandy, and I like A&M to beat Arkansas because A&M was my pick to win this pre-tournament. But, boy, Arkansas looked good last night, and I'm wondering if the team getting it together just in time. I'll stick with A&M because A&M's playing so well too, but that one is going to be just a war.
And then the semifinals would be amazing. I mean, if you think about Alabama, Tennessee, and Tennessee gave Alabama one of their two losses in the league, and now they're healthier, even though they don't have Zakai Ziegler, who gave Alabama all kind of problems. And then you would have Kentucky and Texas A&M would be quite a semifinal Saturday with some high-level games being played.
Yeah, I think I would go with the better teams in those scenarios. I just don't know if Tennessee has got enough offensive firepower to beat Alabama again, playing with more tired legs. I just think A&M's a better team than Kentucky. It's certainly been a more consistent team since the calendar flipped over to 2023, and so that's where I'd go in that one too.
No doubt. It's going to be an outstanding tournament, and as you said, you like A&M. It would be big for them and Buzz Williams. It would be their second straight finals appearance and their first championship. Buzz Williams, to me, still one of the most underrated coaches in all of college basketball. Final question for you. If Chris Beard is ultimately the coach at Ole Miss, how much better does that make the SEC?
Oh, man. There's just not a lot of automatic wins anywhere in this league. Ole Miss is one of the wins, I guess you'd say, the last couple of years. Is it kind of fell apart on Kermit Davis. Most people think Chris Beard is a top 10 coach in college basketball. Now, the question is, can anybody win at Ole Miss consistently? Because nobody has. But, look, this is a guy that took Arkansas Little Rock to the top 50 of KenPom out of nowhere a couple of years ago. And so I think if you can do it there, you could probably do it at Ole Miss. This league is just going to be brutal in terms of, in a good way, in terms of coaching roster. And I have the same qualms everybody else has about Chris Beard personally, but there's no question the guy can coach basketball. And it would certainly make it interesting at a place where more often than not it hasn't been.
Well, I hope to see you later today. I'm about to start the journey to Nashville. We appreciate your time. We know you're very busy, you and Blake Lovell. Let everybody know how to follow you guys' coverage at Southeastern 14 and, of course, BandySports.com later today. The Commodores tonight taking on UK.
Yeah, most of our stuff is at YouTube. Blake and I have been so busy covering games, we haven't had time to film much stuff lately. So we're going to try to get to the arena and do something maybe this morning, depending on internet connection and those things. But you can go search YouTube for Southeastern 14 and find all of our stuff. And I think if you like football, baseball, and basketball, you'll really love what we offer.
Oh, we certainly will, and we always appreciate you. Look forward to seeing you later today, man. Thank you for the time.
Likewise. Thank you.
Chris Lee has just joined us. We are going to go on a break. When we come back on the Recruiting Blitz, a very special conversation with Brian Pasick, longtime color analyst for the Crimson Tide Sports Network. Their game will be on 97.7 The Zone as they will take on Mississippi State the first game of the day. That pregame will be at 11 o'clock, and then noon the call for Chris Stewart and Brian Pasick. And don't forget to download the 97.7 The Zone app if you haven't, so you can listen to that and listen to the entire SEC tournament. So many of you have, but if you have not, do so. And download the Blitz Sports Radio app because there will be no afternoon blitz more than likely. Well, it may depend on some weather with UAH baseball, but the Bandyman, Bailey Lowry, Captain Cool, John Abraham usually bring you the afternoon blitz from 2 to 4. You can listen to that each Monday through Friday, and you can listen to this show, the Recruiting Blitz, from 9 to 10 a.m. But we're going to go on a break. When we come back, Brian Pasick set to join us here on this Friday edition of the Blitz. This is the Recruiting Blitz with D Squared. Stay with us on this Friday.
This is Wes Neighbors with Philip with Eagle Insulation, and we have an announcement to make.
Yes, Wes, we are now
Eagle Masonry and Insulation. Still a place to call for your installation needs, but now we offer masonry services.
What kind of masonry projects can you handle?